Issue 216. Rotor tells Silver that not only would he never be a traitor, but shorting out the nanites doesn't destroy them. He shoots the snow in front of him, not bothering to explain to him that only his evil twin goes by Boomer, and he grabs him while explaining himself that his family are slaves to Eggman right now. Fortunately, this causes Silver to agree to help his herd because he's a hero at heart, and Sonic is given the confirmation that the base tower there is boosting the brainwashing signal and there's just as much power underwater that needs to be taken out. Sonic being called champ is weird when it's not by an adult. I mean, that's usually what a little kid is called as a term of endearment. Is that guy an adult? Sonic says that now the army of zombie walruses makes perfect sense. It didn't need the brainwashing tower to make sense. If anything, with them having actual brainwashing cybernetics chips, like I suggested is making more sense last time, them being brainwashed with that would make way more sense this time around. Celia is sent to do his thing, and Sonic enjoys the bravery and boastfulness of someone not being afraid of a killer whale. Unfortunately, Irma reacts to his appreciation of their bravery by showing irritation and impatience with a nice moment. Again, she's acting more like a future villain than Fiona ever did. Fiona outright participated in the friendship moments, or at least the grand total of one that was on screen for her. I was really expecting Sonic to call her out on this, getting impatient with her being a bitch so much, since he's impatient and all. But instead, he just acts all friendly and cheerful, as if she was never being rude, and is impatient to speed off to go into the action instead, which is thankfully more important to him, but gets worried about attacking the innocent, brainwashed Rotor lookalikes. Sonic is too reluctant to hurt Rotor's family to defend himself from them, until finally they get knocked out by Irma, who out of complete nowhere is revealed in an asshole to have invisibility powers, which she justifies as her being an Ermine, whatever that is, while glaring at him as if he was supposed to know that just by looking at her. I didn't know what kind of animal she was based on her design. And, you know, she actually does appear again later on, and she doesn't use that invisibility power, even though that would have been a huge help. So it just comes off as being no better than when Sonic turned invisible a few times. It's just a Deus Ex Machina power that never gets used ever again, even though that would have been really helpful later on. When Sonic naturally asks if that makes her a ninja, she bitches, "Focus, Hedgehog! Either help or get out of the way!" Sonic, please punch her! Seriously! She's more hateable than the person she reminds me of. She should know full well that Sonic is way more useful than that. And people say that Fiona dismissed Sonic as garbage. Unfortunately, Sonic is too nice to call her out on her behavior once again, and it's really coming off as him being a Gary Stu at this point because he's supposed to have an attitude. That was how he was from the very beginning. Hero or not, he's not supposed to be this much of a nice guy, to the point of being a polite people pleaser. He's reminding me of how he effortlessly forgave his friends for treating him like a criminal in issue 40. And people honestly think that Archie Sonic's heartless. At least Fleetway Sonic has a backbone. Instead of saying a single insult to her, he just hopes that the other team is having a better time than him instead of being jealous of them. I can only assume that this is because Irma is supposed to be funny with her bitchiness, and so it was written with the idea that it's supposed to be funny, and it wouldn't be funny anymore if Sonic just called her out on it. But that's stupid. Meanwhile, Celia lures a killer whale over to him, but then the cyborg guy's killer whale sends horrible sonar at them that was apparently his own combination of sonar and psychic energies. So now sonar being made worse by cybernetics makes sense because it was sonar coming from a whale Mobian. He uses the sonar to knock away the polar bear and says that the orca and walruses have been fighting over territory for a long time, and the orca have long used their sonar to confuse the walruses, make them prone to Robotnik's devices somehow. Is that the explanation for why the neuron bombs made them brainwashed? That still doesn't explain why that didn't kill them. At least them having psychic energies kind of makes more sense than just sonar brainwashing them. As the whales attack the Mobians with no powers whatsoever aside from underwater capability, Rotor tells Silver that they have to destroy the base. Rotor blasts through it with his laser gloves, and says that he could easily hack the tower. There's some helmet hanging from the ceiling that's a neural interface for direct mental control. Silver apparently has a shit vocabulary because he didn't understand what he meant, and it's explained that Silver might be able to do the morally gray good deed of using brainwashing for good. Silver says that while he's a psychic, he's not much of a telepath, although he can apparently give somebody a headache. Just like Moggle. Rotor thankfully points out that Eggman has no psychic powers and it would work for him, and Silver saves the day by thinking a command. Just like that, all the walruses regain their senses. How is that sick, Rotor? I thought he meant that he was going to brainwash the walruses into fighting evil to help bring down the base or something, not immediately free them. A civilian walrus tells Sonic that all he remembers is ear-splitting whale songs. And a loud sound is heard as everyone gets tossed up a little from a tremor, but fortunately it's revealed to not be a killer whale or anything making that sound, as while Irma hugs an Arctic freedom fighter being good for once, Sonic sees that it was Rotor and Silver who saved the day. Also, Silver's holding his head in pain for some reason, even though he didn't actually smack it against anything, so how does that make sense? I love that Sonic goes, "What happened to I belong to the council, I don't adventure anymore, wah wah wah." He's the perfect audience surrogate here. I'm glad he expressed his disapproval. For some reason, Rotor just says it's a long story and a secret when he could easily just tell him that Nicole made him a battlesuit to fight for his family. He better use his battlesuit after this mission. We cut to everyone having dinner together, with the Penguin explaining that the killer whale he apparently knew the name of totally flipped out, and the whole Legion swam off running into each other the whole time. Silver, probably. And Rotor explains it right then and there. Their sonar was linked to the amplifier Silver was in. Rotor's mother says that his father would be so proud, implying that he's dead and that's why we haven't seen him since. I kind of prefer the more interesting direction that the reboot took with him, from what I've heard of it. Silver is amusingly annoyed, explaining that Rotor's mother explained the Boomer nickname situation repeatedly on the trip here. It's funny just thinking about that. Out of complete nowhere, it's revealed that Silver has the power to make it so that the walruses could never be mind-controlled again, without a Chaos Emerald or anything. Well, that's a convenient Deus Ex Machina. At least now this will be the final time, or better. Rotor lampshades that he hates being with Hamlin, and Silver for some reason asks what a Hamlin is, when it's obvious from the lack of an article that Hamlin was a name. And we see Tails, Bunny, and Antoine return to Amy and Sally from their trip to Cocoa Island, apparently. Oh good, we'll actually get to learn about that, as the text blurb explains. Tails doesn't tell her about his adventure right away because he's tired, I guess. And Sally says they should rest up quick because their vacation that they had for once in their lives is over, and she'll need her and Sonic for a mission. For some bizarre reason, Bunny asks what's so special about her when she has cybernetics, so I hope that's her idea of a joke. In the second story, Silver returns to his future, embarrassed about being wrong about the traitor when he should be at least a little happy that if it weren't for him, Rotor's herd wouldn't have been brought back to normal, and kept from being brainwashed ever again. So he accomplished something great by going back in time, for once. Someone asks who's come to his island, and Silver tells Guardian Edmund that it's him, Silver. And for some reason Edmund doesn't recognize him at first and takes a while to remember him, because he's senile, I guess. How is he still the Guardian then? If he wasn't lucky enough to have children, then he's the last of the Echidna line. Not to mention that I'm surprised that Echidna still exists 200 years ahead in the ruined future, especially with Echidnas being so rare in the present now to begin with. The Echidna bloodline should have thinned away from Echidnas marrying non-Echidnas by now, unless again this is an alternate dimension. He says that he doesn't remember letting Silver do his research, and lampshades that because he's over 100 years old, he was bound to go senile eventually, only just now getting the idea that he is that. He's over 100 years old and he still hasn't lived to get his son? Then Silver explains that the reason he doesn't remember is because Silver's desync from time. Edmund tells him not to patronize him while getting the Silver Hedgehog's name Silver wrong somehow, proving that he is senile. And Silver explains that every time he changes something in the past, it changes things here, though I haven't seen any proof of that change other than this. When he comes back to the future, he's unaffected by the change, but Edmund's lived through it and hasn't noticed it. Except the only significant change he made by traveling back in time so far is, well, aside from distracting Scourge from attacking Miles when he was very easily distracted as Super Scourge anyways, he did what he did in this issue. Both of those deeds, I don't see how they'd have noticeable consequences 200 years down the line. Edmund says that Silver doesn't remember the Great Crudzeus Spore. Oh right, Crudzeus, the name of that plant robot. And Silver apparently was the one who defeated it by destroying the root, despite Silver not remembering that at all. So he changed his own past deeds as well, even though he said that he was desync from time and thus would be unaffected by the change, as he just said. I don't see how him saving Rotor's herd from ever being brainwashed again would cause this, since if anything it should prevent it with him keeping them from being villains again, unless it caused Eggman to go on to other people who, well, will they still be 200 years ago? Why would their actions cause that frenzy spore in the future? Edmund calls Silver's master a sad sack of lies, which I hope is elaborated on. And Silver says that his master is one who taught him how to use his powers, and he arbitrarily insists that he still has a lot to learn from him when he did his most powerful psychic feat ever in this issue. He's that humble. Edmund complains he doesn't like the idea of his master teaching him anything, and suddenly his master telepathically tells him he knew he left. Edmund gets his name wrong again and calls himself a failed guardian while hoping he can teach Silver something. Makes sense since the world went to ruin on his watch. Silver is revealed to be a knight of Kronos, and Silver reasons that at least he eliminated one of the possibilities for a traitor, as I remember that Rotor didn't think to tell him about Fiona either. Silver's master wastes our time philosophizing about what the truth even is, and then he says that he wants to save Silver from making the same mistakes he made in the past. The story ends with it being revealed that it was Mammoth Mogul that Silver was working with. And he looks all sad and regretful as I wonder why the hell he never used his omnipotent magical powers to fix the future, or stop it from being ruined in the first place. How can he train him if he doesn't have his psychic powers anymore? So he must still have them. Did he lose the Chaos Emerald in his chest? I mean, is that why he's supposed to be old and decrepit? I love this concept, but it's obviously kind of late for him to be good now. Not to mention that this rules out the much more logical possibility that it was Mammoth Mogul who ruined the future, and he was lying to Silver about there being a traitor in the Freedom Fighters. If it was Mogul, that would have made sense because he told Sonic he had the advantage of time and Mobius would never be saved from him. All the other major villains would eventually die, and I highly doubt that the Dark Legion would destroy their own world that they're living on. But Mogul was shown to be destructive enough to destroy almost the entire multiverse temporarily. But no, instead it's not him who caused the ruined future. Wait, is he using his "he's way too smart to make sense" power from being a perfect planner? Does somehow know that Silver going back in time will help the heroes like this? Is that how he's making up for destroying the future? No, because that'd make more sense than what I heard was the actual answer. This issue is by Ian Flynn, and involves Silver not only using his psychic powers to get the Dark Legion running and unbrainwashing all the walruses, but making it so that they could never be brainwashed again. That's a very convenient Deus Ex Machina, thank God for that. I was really disappointed in how ineffective Sonic and Rotor were though. Sonic was acting as useless as Irma treated him, because he didn't want to hurt the walruses, who all look exactly the same, seriously, and people say the echidnas look too similar. When it could have easily run a circle around them to create a tornado around them or something like that. And all that Rotor's battlesuit accomplished was letting him blast his way into the tower and hacking it, which was great of course, but I was expecting him to be way more badass and fight the killer whales or something like that. Although I guess they are organic people targets. He better use his battlesuit from now on as an excuse to go back to adventuring, because I'm sick of the direction they took with his character. Even with Sally at her worst, at least she was always being useful on missions. And the second story is about revealing that Mammoth Mogul was still his master all along, and wants to atone, which is a concept that I love. But also it rules out the most logical and likely possibility of who ruined the future. Unless there never was a traitor and he's getting Silver to go back in time knowing that he'll do good because of it, but I've heard that's not the case in future issues. And I know that this has to be the future of Prime Mobius, because it's mentioned that when Silver goes to help in the past of Mobius, it changes events in his future. So that rules out it being an alternate dimension. The problem is that by making it so that Sonic's future is ruined, it seems to discredit everything the heroes are doing and make it worthless, because why do they bother fighting when 200 years later the future will be ruined anyways? And Silver's future never gets openly fixed either.